It's time for the Movin' the Chains podcast. Your home for high school football coverage in the Palmetto State. Every team, every game, every week. And now your host, Kevin Thomas and Jarrell Hendricks.
Welcome in to Movin' the Chains, brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. I'm Kevin Thomas alongside Jarrell Hendricks. We've got a great interview today, a very special guest, the new head coach of the Palmetto Mustangs, Ryan Norton. Coach, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are y'all?
Doing well. Appreciate your time. We really do. This is you guys' first time tuning in. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, etc. at Movin' Chains. Our website, movinchains.com. That's movinchains.com. Our podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Coach Norton was hired in March. He's been the OC at Powdersville for the past 3 seasons and had been on staff with the Patriots for 6 overall. Prior to that, he was assistant at Burns. He played offensive line at Clemson University and went to high school in Malden. Coach, let's just start there. How's that transition been, kind of getting from Powdersville over to the head coaching job now at Palmetto?
Yeah, so I think my transition was probably a little bit unique. Along with being the head or the offensive coordinator at Powdersville, I was the head track coach for 6 seasons. So you said, like you said, March was when I got hired here. Well, that was the first week of track season. And so I'm not the kind of person, and I told the kids that and was very honest with them when I got here. I'm not the kind of person that's going to say, hey, I got something else, I'm leaving. I did my best to juggle the both of them, which was not easy at a lot of the time. But, you know, it was definitely something that I would not necessarily do again. But it was something that was great for me just to be able to finish what I started at where I was and then make my way over here as well. And then the assistant track coaches over there, they did an unbelievable job of kind of picking up the slack for me. And I was very honest with both teams. I told the track team at Powdersville, I said, guys, I've got this opportunity that I want and I've got to make the most of it. I'm going to be absent a little bit. And I kind of said the same thing over here. One thing I made sure I didn't do was miss track meets. And that was just because kind of being a face of that program from a leadership standpoint, kind of helping them with running events, running track meets, kind of teaching along the way some of the other people on how to take over that job. And so it was interesting. And then once spring practice started, that's when I said, hey, Monday through Thursday, I'm at Palmetto. And then, but it worked out because we did it right after the region track meet. So upper state and state, those are Saturday meets. So that worked out really well for that schedule.
Coach, let's get into some background information on you. Kevin hit the highlights of your coaching career so far. If you don't mind, tell us how you got started. If you don't mind, too, talk about your prep career. You played in South Carolina, and then you also played for Clemson. Just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so played at Malden, had an unbelievable experience. Malden was surrounded by superior athletes. You talk about that region of football, and especially back in that time, I graduated 2011, so you're talking about that was Burns' reign of number 1 in the nation and all kind of those errors. So I got to play against unbelievable talent, played in the Shrine Bowl, played with unbelievable talent. My locker buddy was actually Jadeveon Clowney. I still tell people he got the biggest head I've ever seen in my whole life. I mean, his head was massive. A super great guy, a superior athlete. I mean, in that Shrine Bowl game, I think he had like 3 sacks, and the guy that was going against him had like 6 holding penalties. So I mean, you can add them together if you want. I do, but so was able to see that at Malden when I first got there, losing seasons, to building a very successful, I thought, program in that region. It was very difficult. We got to 10 wins my junior year. We had winning senior seasons my senior and my sophomore year as well. Had great guys that I played with, multiple guys that went on and play in college. I look at the offensive line that we had. We had East Carolina. I went to Clemson, Virginia Tech, Newberry, and that was just the line. I mean, so it's very interesting to see that. And then for me, it was it was great to go on to college. I had highs, I had lows in college that helped kind of dictate and change my character. Which was great. And then I say when I got into coaching was when I got hurt my senior year. I tore my knee up, second game in, was done for 8-9 weeks. I don't remember how many weeks it was, but I was out. Probably good for the team because Jay Guillermo came in and he was a beast. So he really helped out. But it was really neat for me because I was standing on the sideline. I'd started for 2 years. Standing over there, and Jay would come over off on the sideline. He'd go, "Hey, Ryan, what'd you see?" And for me, I was kind of like, this is not bad. This is kind of fun. I had no idea what I wanted to do when I left college. None at all. I had knee surgery right after the season. I was a redshirt senior, so I kind of had that like tweener period where it was after the season, but it was the spring, so if I wanted to go continue my education, it was kind of like a waiter period. And so I sat down. I was in an office with the Marine officers. I almost went into the Marines. I sat there, thought about going to law school. I was a history major. I was like, you know what? I could go into real estate law, make tons of money.
Yeah.
And then, then I got approached about being a special ed teacher. And there was a master's program at Clemson that just started. So for me, that was a calling kind of moment for me. I helped out a little bit of that in high school, and I loved it. Once I got in it, I was like, this is what I want to do. And I started coaching along with that when I was getting my master's in special ed. That's when I coached at Burns for a year. That was the best coaching experience I had because I was a 9th grade offensive line coach. 9th grade offensive line. So going from 5A football to college football to 9th grade offensive line coach. I'll never forget. I was demonstrating something and I took a kid and I accidentally pushed him too hard and he went backwards and fell on his rear. And I was like, man, I gotta use more words than just, I'm not going to be able to sit here and demonstrate all the time. So it really changed my outlook, made me go back to fundamentals. And then it was another culture shock going from 5A football, college, 5A football. You talk about biggest schools in the state to 3A football, where you go from having 200 kids on your team to having, 85 to 100. And I'll never forget looking around and I go, all right, how many offensive linemen I got? I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Huh. Okay. Here we go. So, that was real interesting and it was a fun experience. And then building into that coordinator position, that was something that I wanted to do. I went up to Coach Muster. I kind of said, hey, here's a playbook. And it kind of rolled from there in a sense. It was the COVID year. It was very difficult as a head coach. So that transition kind of happened during that time frame. And then he was awesome, unbelievable coach. And he gave me full reins, full freedom. He never questioned me. He never kind of was, you hear about some guys where they got head coaches and they pull that mic down and they're like, you're going to run this play right now. Or they just call something. He never did that to me. I felt like he really kind of gave me my freedom I needed to grow. And he helped me out tremendously. So that's how I kind of got here. I wore a lot of hats at Powdersville. I'm trying to only wear, 2 here. I got the head football and then assistant athletic director over there. I did strength and conditioning. I did track. I did offensive line. I did offensive coordinator. I did assistant athletic directors. I did a lot of stuff that I'm trying to kind of get down a little bit off of it. And then allow some other people to grow, because that's my goal. I was given the opportunity to grow. My goal is to give the opportunity to other people as well.
So, Coach, we're almost through the summer now. How is the staff shaping up? Is that fully in place, and we're able to keep a couple guys from the old staff, bring in some new guys? What'd you do there, and can you highlight a couple guys for us as well?
Yeah. So when I first got here, there were a lot of adjunct coaches, and there were about 5 coaches that wanted to stay. 3 ended up staying, and so I replaced 6, so 7 counting myself. And there was no strength coach on staff, so I replaced a strength coach, or I got a strength coach. Me and the new athletic director, we went out and we got a strength coach that's been with us this summer as well. It was a little bit later, and I'm sure you've heard it from multiple guys that, jobs are hard to fill, and coaching is not one that's all of a sudden everyone wants to do it. So it is difficult to fill. Right now, everyone is filled. I have 11 people on staff, counting the strength coach. I was able to hire a new defensive coordinator, Camden. He came from Woodmont, but he was at Clemson. He was I think a defensive analyst type of role, not a paid role, but a student role at Clemson under Venables. Very intelligent, brings high energy. He's one of the guys that I was looking at as building a younger staff here to kind of replace that energy that needs, and that nucleus that needs to kind of spread out. I got Coach Brockman that came over from Southside Christian. He was at Southside Christian for 8 years. He played with him in high school. Got Tim Jones. He came from Woodmont, but he played at Charleston Southern, played arena football. He's a great guy as well. I got Coach Gardner, who ended up staying. He was the defensive coordinator last year. He's inside linebackers. Camden's the defensive coordinator. And then you've got Coach Scroggs, who is a DB coach. I got Coach Wardlaw, who just came on staff. He's graduating actually this year. He was another guy that was at Clemson, and he's graduating with his master's this year. So he's coming in as a student teacher, and then he'll kind of take over that role moving forward. Coach Froge, who was here last year, he coached offensive line. And when I first got here, first of all, offensive line is my baby. Okay. All right. I love that position. And I said, how did you coach offensive line? I said, you play it in high school? No. I said, did you study it? No, I kind of just listened. And I was like, all right, so here's what we're doing. What position did you play? And he was all about defense. He played linebacker. He played a little bit of H-back, tight end. So that's probably what went in that offensive line position a little bit. But, he's now the defensive line coach. He knows the big boys here. He's built good relationships with them. Fantastic young coach. His first year teaching. So it's real young staff overall. And I probably missed 1 or 2, and it's just going to slip my mind. But, I tried to go for young, enthusiastic, contagious. That was the goal I was looking for.
Let's kind of break down your schemes a little bit. What is, Coach Camden going to do on the defensive side? Is he going to bring like that 4-2-5 kind of base from the Venable scheme? And on offense, what are you going to do for people who haven't seen Powders for the last few years? And will you continue to call plays?
Yeah. So right now, we did a lot of evaluation in the spring. I didn't know the kids, the coaches. Like I said, it's a big staff changeover as well. So they didn't know the kids. When we evaluated and kind of looked at it, we're not going to be a 4-2. I know Camden wanted to. He brought in his playbook. It was 4-2. I was like, that's Clemson. I was like, that was Coach B all day long. But, I think we're going to be more of a 3-4. I personally like the 3-4 as a head coach. Hate it as an offensive coordinator because it can be super multiple. If you've got a linebacker that can come down and rush, if you got a linebacker that can play really well in space, then you can really change it up and really adapt your defense to any offensive scheme. So 3-4 is what we'll be basing out of right now on defense. Goal is being as aggressive as possible. We've got a really, really strong linebacker core. I feel like they're veteran group. Got 2 twins. Listen, if you have 2 twins as your Mike and your Will, and they're both big old thick boys that when I look over there, they're an individual, they're headbutting each other, getting pumped up for practice. That's a good sign. That's a great sign for
yeah.
2, inside backers. And then from an offensive standpoint, again, evaluated, looked at it, probably 11, 12 personnel, maybe some 21. We got a lot of tight end bodies here. We've got two guys that played defensive end last year. They were really, really good defensive ends. Scouting against them, I used to think that they were very explosive. They're big. And I tried them both out at tight end. Well, it turns out they both can catch well, and they both run pretty good routes. So they're both going to kind of be in between as well with that role. So it's really looking at them, trying to get all the best 11 on the field. Offensively, it's always who's your best athletes? How do we get them the ball in the most ways possible? I've been very spoiled over the last few years having Thomas Williams in the backfield where, hey, maybe it wasn't the best play call, but he made it look like the best play call. That's kind of where we're steering right now from a personnel standpoint. So that's we're still going to evaluate. Last year going into the fall camp, we were going to be at Powdersville a little bit more tighter from a formation standpoint. A week into fall camp, we spread it out. So I can't tell you, maybe a week from now our formation might look a little bit different, but I'm a big spread principle kind of guy. Power spread is the key that I like the most right now. And then from an offensive side, right now I'm going to continue to call plays. And it's not because I don't trust anybody. It's not because of anything like that. My goal, again, is to grow people, grow coaches just as much as grow players, grow boys into men, even though they're not necessarily boys in a lot of cases. I got one kid that's about to graduate and get a full-time job in December. So, he's about to be in the real world. So right now I'm going to still call, but a year from now, 2 years from now, the goal is to get a guy on the offensive side that has that desire, that want to, and kind of give those reins up. I don't ever want to be a CEO. I'm always going to coach a position, probably always going to coach offensive line, but that's something that I'm looking at in the future.
Coach, obviously you're a younger guy, but you've been around some really special head coaches in your career, even playing in college and high school. But who are some guys that you really maybe kind of model your style after, or have been big influence on the way that you do coach here as a head coach?
Yeah. Coach Sweeney, obviously, he's going to be one that anyone that ever plays for him is going to mention his name. He is the most genuine person I've ever met in my entire life. He cares about you. I took all the coaches here to the Clemson Coaches Clinic. First thing he did was grab my neck, give me a hug, tell me how proud he was of me. And then, and that just kind of tells you what kind of person he is. I've been out of the system, I guess you could say, for, 7 years, 8 years. He still, first thing he does when he sees me is give me a hug and tell me, good, positive vibe. And that's what I want to do for my players. Every morning when they come in, I want to be the first one standing at that door. I want to make sure that they hear me say good morning, and they have to say good morning back to me. It's not, I'm so, high school kids are zombies in the morning. I'm an energy drink guy, so I'm wired, ready to go right there at 7:30. So, I want them to know I care about them. And so I try to model that after him because I know he cared about his players. Coach Muster at Powdersville, he was probably one of the best people at building a bond with players that I knew. He really did a tremendous job of that. And so that's my goal. And that's when I look at qualities, I'm not looking at X's and O's. X's and O's can change year to year. That just depends on who you have on your team. This isn't college. I can't go recruit a guy to go run a certain offense or a certain defense. I'm going to have to adapt to what they can do and what they do well. So I really look at it more as a relationship. I want to build a relationship with these guys where 5 years down the road, I see them in the grocery store. They don't walk the other way. Because, I could tell you I probably know 2 or 3 coaches that coached me in the past that I see them. I might turn and go the other way. I don't ever want to be that guy. I want to be the guy that if I see him, they're not going to turn because if I see him, I'm going to run at them. But, I want to be a guy and a coach that has a good relationship. And that's when I sat down and talked to all my coaches. I said, that's the number one thing. I said, you better have fun with them. You better love them up. And after we walk off that field, I want to see your arm around somebody walking with them and talking to them, because it's way more than a game. And I think the kids here especially, they need that. They need that love. They need that role model.
It's an awesome example. You explained earlier that you took a playbook to Coach Muster, so you were kind of planting those seeds. But when exactly did you know that you were ready to be a head coach?
So I'll tell you, last year, okay, at the beginning of the year, I said, I think I want to try to be a head coach. I said, I think I'm at that point where I have led a segment of a team, and I want to lead a full team. And it's really, Coach Muster did a really good job of allowing independence from coaches, but he was still that figurehead. And I'm not looking to be a figurehead. I never want the spotlight on me, but my goal is, how can I impact the most people as possible? And I think from this role, it will allow for me to spread a seed further than just as a coordinator. I think you can definitely do it as a coordinator, but it's harder because now everyone's listening to you. I don't have to wait for the head coach to say, all right, any coaches, y'all got anything else? Like you go to a practice, that's the ending. I think that's like the religious ending statement of every head coach that they say in the huddle right there at the end. And so now I'm the one that can plant that seed right from the start. So that was something I was looking for. My goal in my career, my whole life, has always been, how many people can I impact and spread that seed out to change some thought processes out there, because not everyone has a positive thought process. And so that's the goal, I guess, behind it. That's when I knew, hey, I think I can do this to a bigger group.
We talked about earlier, Coach, you were kind of doing some back and forth there for a while, trying to get from Powdersville to Palmetto and all that throughout the spring. But how important was it for you to be able to get over to Palmetto some during the spring? You had to go through spring ball and things like that. And what all could you learn about your team there in that short time?
Yeah, it was definitely important to get over here, and I tried to make it a key point to get over here. I didn't want to dramatically change what was happening here. Though the one thing that was difficult was there wasn't a super structure when I first got here, from a after school weightlifting, in school weightlifting. There was a few guys that were doing a few things, but majority of the staff wasn't necessarily involved, and it was because it was kind of unknown for a long period of time as well. So it was very important for me to come over. I wanted to meet the kids. That first week came over, I met with the kids. I wanted to talk to them. I wanted to exchange some numbers, kind of get that seed planted, because again, coaching, you can have an impact, but you've got to have an impact on a nucleus of kids that then they spread that out. It's a whole different thought process. And as a player, you know it, that a coach can tell you something. Well, one guy on this team can tell you something, and I'm going to listen to that guy over anybody else. Because I know who he is. I grew up with him. He lives 3 streets down the road from me or something like that. So it's, it's really important to come over here and kind of start building that relationship again. And it's not going to be built in that short time frame, because you talk about March, school was almost over with. You had spring ball, but that spring ball was, you had some kids that were coming out and just trying it. They were excited. They said, I haven't played football since 8th grade. I'm going to come and try football again. Or I had some kids that just didn't come back. So it's a give or take in that situation. The numbers in the spring don't look like the numbers now. And that's a commitment level that I've got to change over time here. And it's not going to be, again, during that short time frame. It's really going to be this next year is when that change can really occur.
Coach, my favorite part about covering high school football in this state is learning the players. I got to know about these linebackers that you said you got headbutting before. It's the time to give some of your players a shout out. Who are some of the special guys that we need to be looking for this season? Yeah,
I think defensively we're going to be real strong. Like I said, you got 2 middle linebackers, Mike and Will. It's the Mayberry twins, Logan and Landon. They're big as all they're strong as all get out. They're two thick old jokers. And like I said, that first day I looked over there during our EDD session and they're headbutting. And I look at the defensive coordinator and I go, they about to give themselves a concussion before we even start. It was first day of pads. So I was like, I kind of like this. And it was unique in that situation, that transition, because I've never had kids say they didn't know what they played. So that was interesting to see too. You got Landon Jordan, who's going to be a linebacker. You got Cooper Robinson, who's going to be a linebacker. Tice Gardner, who actually transferred he played at Palmetto, went to Teal-Hanna, transferred back this year. So he's another linebacker safety style guy. Same thing with Cooper. They're kind of linebacker safety style guy. But I think our linebacker core is going to be real strong. We got 2 returners back on the defensive line, both the defensive ends. They might not be playing that defensive end. One might be going to nose guard. I tried to convince one of them right now that nose guard might be the position for him in high school, because I was like, listen, man, I played on that side. You could have a 6'4", 340-pound guy at nose guard, and he's easy to block. But if you have a 6 foot, 225-pound guy that can move really, really well and is explosive, that changes the whole game.
Sure.
So that's KJ Manziel and then Jalen Putnam. Both of them. Jalen's only a junior, and he's 6'3", 220, 230 possibly. And, they're both big kids, very explosive, great attitudes. So for our box on defense is going to be real strong, I feel like. And I knew that playing against them last year. I knew the box was going to be a strength for them. They ran a 3-3 stack last year, so it was a little bit different. From an offensive side, I got Luke Dobbins, who's at quarterback right now. He's doing pretty good during this summer. It's different for him when it comes to, conceptually teaching pass coverages. Some guys out there, they just do all slants or all stops. So I like concept-based passes that can it limits the amount that you have to teach from a play standpoint, because it should be able to go against multiple different coverages successfully if it's read properly. So he's still learning that read progression. You got Wyatt Winter, who's at receiver, Peyton Burton, who's at receiver. Peyton probably play a little bit of DB as well. Wyatt might play a little bit of safety. And then Cooper and Tice, both of them are playing that running back position as well. We're going to have a lot of two-way players. And again, the best thing for me that I'm looking at is get the best 11 on the field and then prioritize it. So they'll have a primary defensive position or a primary offensive position. And the goal is to then have 2 guys. So let's say Cooper and Tice, okay? Both of them are going to start on defense, but they'll rotate in a running back, so that way they get that breather break in between it. And that was something that was new to them. When I got here, I said, all right, what position do you play? And they told me safety. I said, all right, do you ever try offense? No. I said, okay. And they said, we don't play both ways. We've never played both ways. Like, they didn't – Coach Shaw and I guess his staff, they didn't want two-way players. And I'm coming from, Powdersville, where, heck, Thomas Williams, you're going to be on both sides of the ball. I mean, it's going to happen. Like, you got to have your best player on both sides. So those guys right now, top of my head, I probably missed 2, 3, 4 guys. I'm real excited. We're younger in general. We got a JV group that's been successful in the past. They went 7-1 in middle school. So there's a lot of potential building up as well, but I never want to look at a senior when you show up. I don't want to be that guy and say, I'm looking at next year. No, I'm looking at this year. That's the goal is this year. And we got some good talent from a senior level and some good leadership that we're still trying to mold and create as well.
We're kind of coming to the end of a 7-on-7 season now, Coach. Are you a fan of that stuff, and have you done much of it? And if so, how'd you do this summer?
I was about to pull up a picture on my phone. I think it was like Wisconsin and someone else, and it was 4th and 1, and they got double tight ends and a fullback, and they said 7-on-7 don't prepare you for this.
That's right.
That's my favorite picture. When someone asks about 7-on-7, I just say, hold on real quick, and I pull up this picture. I show it real quick. I mean, you are talking to a line guy.
That's right.
But I think 7-on-7 is great. I think it can create terrible habits. Terrible habits. One, it can get a quarterback too comfortable with no pressure. Two, it can create bad steps for linebackers. You can have a linebacker, instead of having to take a read step forward, he's going to just drop. You can go to some 7-on-7s and watch some teams, and it's just depending on what they are wanting to do, what they're trying to get out of it. You watch some teams that play man too high, and they're just playing that defense the whole time. That's not what they're going to play. I looked over, me and another coach were talking the other day, and I said, if there are 4 guys in the box and I'm throwing the football, then fire me as the offensive coordinator, because I got something wrong. Unless it's 3rd and 25, okay, all right, I got something wrong. I think it's great. I think we've had some success. We did well. We went to it was 4-team 7-on-7 at BHP. We did well there. We won some games. We lost some games. We went to a Pendleton tournament. We won some games again. I think we went 2-2 in the pre-tournament, and then we went on to the tournament. And then we went with just Southside Christian. Us and Southside Christian just kind of went and practiced together. And I'm more of a fan right now, especially this first year building stage, of spending a lot of time at home. And 1, I need to get to know them. And 2, they need to get to know the system. And they need to they need more reps. You can go to a lot of 7-on-7s and go 3 and out, and your offense just got 3 reps. Whereas if we're here, I can control it. If it's one other team that we're going against, we can control the reps a little bit more, and kind of like more of a scrimmage situation where you have 6 plays, then drive or something like that. So we dabbled in it some this off season. Next year, my goal is to go to some colleges for some 7-on-7. And the big reason is, I've told some of the kids and the staff here, is we got a lot of kids that don't leave the area. And they kind of sit in this Williamston, Pelzer, West Pelzer triangle, and they don't leave. And I want to expose them and show them life outside of this part of the state as well, because I'm sure just like y'all travel everywhere in the state, it's neat to see different parts of the state. And sometimes you go, I'm anti-Columbia, All right. Well, I might take him to Columbia, but I want to take him down there and be like, just look how good you have it here. All right. All right. So no, but that's something that I think they need to see. So next year is a year we might spread our wings a little bit more in the summertime.
Coach, you mentioned you're in the building stage right now. What's something, you had a difficult kind of transition being the track coach still at Powdersville, but what's something when you got in that job and you were there full time that you identified as important and you knew that you needed to change?
Yeah. Pride in the school and pride in the equipment. I walked into the field house and cleaned out, which I know everybody does this. Every new coach, first thing they do is they walk through, and then next thing you know, their family's up there, they're wiping down everything, they're cleaning everything. I spent my spring break at Palmetto cleaning. And I found a dead rat in a room. There was stuff on the floor I couldn't identify. And me and the current AD, the new AD here, we sat down and I told him, I said, Palmetto has nice stuff. They truly do. And I'm trying to break the mindset of, because we're in the same district as Wren and Powdersville. I'm trying to break the mindset of, Wren gets this, Powdersville gets this. But Palmetto gets it too, but it's how you treat what you get. Sure. And taking pride in what you get as well. And so that's something that I'm trying to instill not only into other people around the community and the staff, but also in the players. They need to understand. That was something that you talked about, influences. Coach Sweeney, we went to watch a movie on Friday nights. That movie theater better be spotless by the time we leave. It better look better than when we showed up. And so that's something big right now that I'm focusing in on. And then the other thing is self-confidence. Everyone talks about belief. You got to believe. Well, if you have no self-confidence, it's hard to believe in anything because you don't believe in yourself. So I'm trying to build self-confidence in these kids right now and really push that motto of they can do it. We got to break the habit of just we're going to hang with somebody until the very end. Because you look at the games from last year, I went and watched all the games. I know a bunch of the coaches went and watched all the games from last year. They were in almost every single game. I mean, it was like down to the fourth quarter, and then all of a sudden they just let it go, or one or two plays, and that's what happened. So it's really can't lose that mindset and just build that self-confidence that they can do it, and the talent is here. And we just got to change that motto and take pride in what we have. So,
Coach, we've kind of realized, and I think we talked to other coaches about this as well, but it's been tougher for some of these kids to get recruited the last couple of years with, the COVID year and then transfer portal and all that stuff. I mean, with you being a former college guy, how much does that help, with you building relationships with other, recruiters and just kind of helping you guys get your guys in front of the right people?
Yeah, I think it helps a lot. A lot of my ex-teammates now coach in college. So that's kind of neat to see. I was sitting there, Jay coaches at East Tennessee. I saw him and over the off season, and I sat down and I talked to him because he jumped around. He was at, I think, Georgia State. Then he went to Carson Newman. Then he went to Virginia. So they bounce. So they know connections. So I can kind of reach out as well. But I've also told the kids that it's okay, and they need to understand and be more patient nowadays than when I was in school. When I was in school, Division I offers were coming, into sophomore, like into June, like junior season. I think after my junior year was my first offer, and then it's kind of once you get one, it snowballs. It's like all of a sudden, I'll never forget, got offered from Clemson, and then like 6 hours, maybe not even 6 hours, Georgia Tech calls, hey, and I was like, well, where did that come from? So, it snowballs, but nowadays you got to understand, and they've got to understand that there's a different level now. It used to go college, high school. Now there's transfer portal in that middle spot. So it's going to go down that ladder before it starts at the bottom and go up. They got to understand it's okay if a Division I Power 5 is not talking to you, and it's okay to go to a Division II, Division III, and get one step ahead to what your goal is. And so it does help having those connections, but when I have those connections with those guys, I also have to keep those connections and be honest with them. I'm not going to put my word at risk for a kid that doesn't deserve my word. And I've told the kids that. I said, I will back you up if you give me something to back up. They've got to earn that right as well. It's different. It is way different now, but people are still recruiting. College coaches still come to schools. They still send letters. They're still active in high schools. It just might be going from I'm taking 5 linebackers to I'm taking 2 linebackers. So that number just kind of dwindles down, and they might just need to understand there's another additional step that's in this process now.
Take your financial game to the next level with Founders Federal Credit Union. Reach your full potential. Relax. Join Founders today. Visit an office near you or relaxjoinfounders.com to apply. Federally insured by NCUA, member qualification required.
All right, Coach, let's transition to a couple easier ones. The first one, we always got to ask you about food. So if you've heard about our stuff, I need some restaurants. In that Williamston, Pelzer, West Pelzer area, we're coming to a Palmetto game. Where am I going to eat?
Yeah, so I've been trying to spread my wings. Now, listen, you're talking to first of all, ex-lineman, okay? So I used to eat like nobody's business. Me and my buddies go to those all-you-can-eat pizza places and just smash it. All right, people would want to get in front of us in line. You know what I mean? But you're talking to an X1. So I went from 320 to 240. So I watch what I eat a little bit differently now.
Okay.
Yeah. So I like I've been to MVP Pizza. I went there once when I first got the job, and they had a killer salad bar. So listen, what I tried to build this before you just went, what's this lineman talking about salad for? Okay. All right. Okay. But they had a good salad bar. They got good pizza. I know a bunch of the kids love it. They got a chocolate chip pizza. So of course you get that. Everyone's going to talk about it. I went to Raines actually today, and there was this kind of bar food. It's got wings. I thought the wings were great. I've been to Baby Sumo, which is my favorite name for a restaurant. All right. If you can't guess what they serve there, all right, we got to talk about it a little bit. But they had one of the coaches I got the steak. I looked at him. I said, "You got too much money." I got the chicken. Yeah. I thought the chicken was pretty good. The steak looked better. So if you go there, I'd get the steak. All right. Your pockets aren't teacher pockets, so it might be a little bit better than mine. But it was. I'm still trying to spread my wings over here a little bit and explore. Those three places kind of come on top of my head right now.
I love it.
Put it on the list for next time we're in town for sure.
There you go.
So, Coach, we mentioned obviously you played at Clemson under Coach 20, and you were kind of there at the start of the historic run. Could you tell that the program was heading in that kind of trajectory, or is it still kind of a surprise to you that, like, hey, this is, top level stuff here?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, the easiest way I explain to people when I went to Clemson, I say, all right, my first year was the year we went to the Orange Bowl and played West Virginia, and I just do this. All right. And I say, then my last year was the year we lost the national championship, and then I make a sad face. You know what I mean? So it's really neat to see that progression. And I think a lot of it comes from, the head of that era, and he recruits the right guys. You could see a character change in the players that were there. And I think he still is recruiting the right guys. I think that program is going to maintain for as long as it possibly can. And I think it's going to keep going for a while. And I think he's making some moves that's going to be great for them. I went and watched their practice, and their offense does not look like the offense I ran. All right. But it definitely is, I think, simpler, which is key to any scheme is getting the people to run it faster. So I definitely think that it wasn't a surprise for me, obviously being a player, feeling like you're putting in the work. But some of my other buddies, they're thinking the same thing. It's the same mindset, no matter what. Every game comes down to 5 or 6 plays that truly dictate the outcome. So, when I was there, we were able to be on the positive side on a lot of that, but the off season showed, the work was put in and was earned. So I think that mindset changed as well a little bit as we progressed and over there. And I think it's going to continue to be successful. I don't see anybody, breaking that mindset. And I don't think Coach Sweeney's going to allow it to be broken. So.
Coach, I mentioned earlier, one of my favorite things to do is follow the players. Obviously, you had one of the best in the state last year in Thomas Williams, who's up at Virginia Tech now. How special was he of a talent, just overall?
Yeah, he was an unbelievable athlete. I'll say that. But his mindset switched. So, freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, his mindset matured significantly his senior year. We'd get into those bigger games, and I'd look at him, and the running back coach would look at him, and that was the one unique thing about Powdersville last year is we had 7 coaches in total. Coach Muster kind of ran, was kind of like the I don't know how he didn't coach a position, he did special teams. So we had 3 offensive coaches and we had 3 defensive coaches. So I coached tight ends, H-backs, Coach Stewart, who I think he's now the offensive coordinator there, who's going to do a killer job with them. He was quarterbacks, running backs, and then we had a receivers coach, Coach McWaters. We had 3 guys. So, to see him and his mindset change to where I would walk up or Coach Stewart would walk up to him and be like, all right, listen, we're playing this team. Against this team, you're going to have to hit it in the middle and pick up 3 to 4. We played Daniel, and I know that's the most controversial game of last year, and pictures going all the way around. And
you can actually blame Kevin for that.
There you go. Come on, Kevin. Did you that ball out of his hands?
That wasn't me, but somebody for sure did. I know that.
No, but that was great. That was kind of something that I hated seeing because a kid, you're talking about a high school kid,
sure,
and we kept reiterating to him over and over again. But that's what I was saying. That mindset changed for him, right? And we playing that game. Hey, listen, you're not going to break a 60, 70-yard run every 4 or 5 carries. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to have to be down nose. We're going to have to run the football. We're going to have to do it successfully. And his mindset flipped, and I could see it. I'd always look at him, and me and a few other coaches would watch him pregame and see if he'd do a dance move or not. If he cut a dance move, I was like, all right, we're good. All right. And so it was interesting to see him mature and grow. And I've joked with him and told him, when he gets up Virginia Tech, he gonna play corner, right? Okay, to start. And I said, don't be surprised you go to slot, all right? Because I was like, I think you'd be a heck of a slot receiver. But he wasn't the only driving force. He was a fantastic player, but Powdersville still has ton. Eli is probably one of the better quarterbacks in the state of South Carolina. I would argue, and he was another one that was a freak runner. So. And so, it was very fun to watch him. You knew he was special when it was 3rd and long on JV. And what was the call? All right, the call is going to be give Thomas Williams the football and let him go, even if it's 3rd and 20. That's our long distance play. So you don't find that in high school very often.
Speaking of great players, Coach, you play with some studs from the high school level to obviously the Shrine Bowl and then at Clemson. Mm-hmm. When you're talking to folks, who are maybe the first one or two that you list out? And you're like, this guy was next level.
Sammy Watkins was probably one of the best athletes I've ever seen in my life, and I'll never forget playing in the Orange Bowl against Ohio State. And the defensive tackle and me were running down the field after we just threw a little baby, screen pass to him, and he took it like 50 yards for a touchdown. And he turns around and starts screaming at the entire defense about how terrible they were playing, that a screen pass went for 50 yards. All right. And he did things that I just was blown away by from an athletic standpoint. He was one of the better college players that I think I played against, or not played against, but played with. And Grady Jarrett, y'all, if you Clemson fan, you know who he is. You're a Falcons fan, you know who he is. Yeah. He was – I got to see firsthand every day. We did Paul drill. I knew who my partner was going to be going up against, and he was probably one of the hardest workers I've ever seen in my whole life. He wasn't the biggest guy in the whole world, but he was a motor. And Utah, that's why I kind of mentioned earlier, and I'm trying to feed that seed into one of my players right now. Yeah. Nose guards don't have to be 350 pounds and just huge. You can be smaller and just dominate. And so he was definitely a dominant force that I would have to get a firsthand ticket to every day and just get better at and just try to compete with him. So, so those two come to mind, at least right at Clemson. Obviously, they got draft picks. They got NFL players. They're guys from the offensive side, Deshaun Watson. You got Taj Boyd. You got, all those the quarterbacks I could think of. Cole Stout was a quarterback that played that I joked that they all touched my butt. That's and then in high school played with tremendous athletes as well, and that went on to play at Arkansas and Virginia Tech and East Carolina and Presbyterian, a bunch of places. So I've seen a lot of great talent, and I feel like I can judge a kid, and I think that gives me a little bit of lean, like just being able to explain to them experiences that I've seen where it's I don't want to play this position because I think I'm this. Having that experience, having those examples can kind of help push that envelope. I had offensive linemen in the past. Last year at Powdersville, I had a defensive lineman that, Coach, I'm not a tackle. Yes, you are. So come over here, let me work with you. I had a quarterback at Powdersville. I'm not a tackle. Yes, you are. Come over here and work with me. I got you got Eric McLean, who was my roommate and one of my best friends all throughout college. Me and him roomed together for the entire 5 years. And, he was a tight end. And when he first got there was no way he was going to take being an offensive lineman. His senior year, he's all conference offensive lineman, so it's different. And it definitely gives me some playing room with some of these kids as well.
Well, Coach, as we wrap this thing up, what are some goals for the 2023 season in this version of the Palmetto Mustangs?
Yeah, it's definitely to keep what I call the ACE mentality. So focusing on our attitude, effort, and commitment daily. That's something that we've got to have that flip. I tell them we got to flip that switch. That's our big goal is walk on that practice field. That ACE mentality better be set, and that flip better be switched on. So our goal is to compete in every form and fashion that we can, and that's at every day. We're just going to get better each day. I'm never going to be a guy that's going to point at we have to be a state champion, because we're just going to give, like you said, best is the standard. We got to give that best, and every team's best is different. And I definitely think that we have a very talented group. We have some strong leaders in this group, which you have to have successful seasons. And so I think the sky's the limit. We just got to buy in and put the work in forward to go out there and compete every day the best ability that we can.
Well, this has been great. Definitely everyone to go follow the Palmetto program on social media. They do a great job posting, highlights and that. So definitely go check those guys out there. Like I mentioned, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, etc. Instagram, movingchange.com, podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Moving the Change brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. Drew, anything else for Coach? We'll let him go today.
Coach, just congratulations on the opportunity. It's well-deserved. Looking forward to what you're able to do in shaping that program in the next couple of years. Know you're going to be successful just because of that pedigree and what you've accomplished so far. So just really looking forward to that. And just thank you for your time today. You've been very gracious in telling your stories. I can feel the energy. Offensive line coaches are my favorite. So I just give you major kudos and just looking forward to what you do there at Palmetto.
I appreciate that.
We appreciate it, Coach. Look forward to getting over to a practice or game and getting to meet you and shake your hand. But best of luck this year, all right?
All right. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it, Coach.